Over under 10 times that Glen's been on the zip line so far at the Grey Cup. You were excited about it in May, Glen. I want to see you up on that thing.
Well, it's funny, you guys. I ran into a military guy that I know from the 417 Squadron in Cold Lake in the airport in Winnipeg after the final. And halfway, he's in a rescue squadron. So he's the guy that goes down the cable into the fire or into the ocean and grabs the victim and brings them up to the helicopter and that kind of thing. And I'm talking to him I'm saying, hey, you're going to Grey Cup. You should try the zip line. It's real. Oh, yeah, you probably have done way more with
yeah.
So jumping out of a helicopter to save lives and stuff. And you know what he said? He goes, yeah, no, but I'm going to go on the zip line.
Well, that's good. So Suits, what I want to know, since the Grey Cup is in Vancouver and that's where you live, do you get like a free week pass from your wife that you can just floor it every night because it's in the hometown? You don't got to travel anywhere. Just be like, this is my week. Just don't. I'll talk to you next Monday morning. Let's just agree to disagree. I'm going to be out having a good time.
Yeah, she does that. She does that every year because when I'm out of town, obviously she's got to hold the fort down for a whole week. But when I'm here, and it's happened a couple of times now, I really don't get into too much of the festivities. I honestly don't. I am doing a lot of studying, want to make sure I cover all the bases, and I certainly don't have a beverage this week. I just don't, because I know me. And if I go and one cold one is going to taste great, and then the fans are going to be there, and we're going to talk about the game, and the next thing I know, it's going to be 2 a.m, and I got a game in 2 days. So I can't really get involved. But I'll tell you what, when you're doing the Grey Cup at home, it is a challenge in taking care of your regular stuff. Like I still have stuff to do around the house and things like that. So I got to do that and then head down to the coaches thing. The commissioner spoke today. So lots going on, but
Jeez Louise. This is like listening to a coach before a championship game say all the right things. I'm calling bull, you know what, that you're not even going to have a cold one all week. And then how much stuff do you have to do around the house? Let's be honest. The kids are out of the house. I said that to my wife the other day when we were putting up the Christmas tree and vacuuming and everything. I'm like, when these guys are gone, it's going to be boring. You don't got a lot to do, Glen.
Okay, you caught me on that. I don't have a lot to do around the house, but the discipline thing on this week. This game is part of Canadian history. This is the way I look at it, and the Grey Cup Championship is sort of a heritage. There's a heritage aspect to that in our country, and I may screw it up. Like I may mess up a guy's name, or I may use the telestrator incorrectly or something. And if I did that after being, out too late the night before, or lose my voice prior to the game the night before, 2 nights before, I just don't do it, guys. I really don't. And anyone who knows me around, a cold one or a glass of wine knows that's really tough for me to do.
So if you see Suits in Riderville, he's lost. Put him in an Uber and send him home to his wife immediately. Don't say come this way. Put your arm around him. Get in the bar. Hey, can I ask you a question? Because Glen, one of the things I've always loved and respected about you, and keep in mind we'd never met until. You have been a staunch defender of the military. You have made it, I don't know if it's your mission, but through the years on TSN to take the time to recognize the men and women of the armed forces in Canada because they do not get enough recognition. Yesterday being Remembrance Day, and this is what got me going. There were some Remembrance Day things that got politicized, where people brought in, even Craig Conroy from the Flames jumped in to talk about a service in Calgary because it was not about the veterans. It went down a wrong path. Does that stuff bother you too when you see that we can't just honor and respect the people that have served this country and continue to serve this country?
Yes, immensely. And as a matter of fact, the gentleman that I knew from the 417 Squadron, whose name, by the way, is Chris Hill. I almost apologized ahead of time for anyone who was making it a political statement around some of the hallowed ground of the the statues and where some of the ceremonies are being held, and there's drug issues around it, and when that happens, I'm not picking out the homeless or the drug addicted or anything. I'm saying that people use that platform then to make their political point one way or another. And I just, we see it in a lot of aspects of life, but I will tell you that my time at the 417 Squadron, and I got a chance to go up there and stay overnight and get up at 5 a.m. with them and, go to the mess hall, and actually got a chance to sit in the helicopter when they were driving down a creek bed too, which was just blow your mind cool. But I leave those meetings with them feeling like I can do better, like feeling like no matter how good you think you are as a citizen, you can do better. They are driven. They are committed to this country first. They have each other's back like, the best team you've ever seen. And you walk out of there completely inspired. And those guys don't have a chance to question orders. They can't be political when it comes to running in to save someone or, being told that they've got to protect that hill or whatever it is, or that building, or go overseas and help another country do the same thing. They have to take orders, whether they believe in it or not. They have to believe in it and believe in the commanding officer, take the order and go execute the task. And I've been behind them a long time, guys. It started, I'll give you the quick one. It started when probably 15 years ago, the Canucks had lost in the playoffs. And in the province newspaper at the time, there was probably 10 pages, not the sports section, 10 pages in the newspaper on why the Canucks lost. And on page 11, there was this tiny little article about an American soldier who was being honored. He had died in battle, but he was being honored. He was a 19-year-old, and he had jumped on a hand grenade overseas to save his unit in a bunker. And it was this tiny little article, and I thought, I get it. I love sports too, and it draws eyes and all that, but this needs to be amplified. Like, this kid made a decision to save his teammates, and I just thought I've got to get behind this and use my platform as best I can to say thank you to all of them that serve.
There was some great stuff yesterday to watch, and then tying it back to football, like the Pat Tillman story, right? That they had down south, and like, we talk about selfless, so unbelievable. What early on in this week, we talked to Arash Madani, who was at the stadium earlier. What are you curious to watch early in this Grey Cup week from either side? Probably more the Toronto Argonauts and how they're going to manufacture some sort of offense around Arbuckle.
Yeah, I think once we get to the game, there's a lot of different aspects. I mean, we can talk Thursday about, keys to the game and things like that, especially for people who might want to be putting, I heard the spread is upwards around 10.5 now.
It's crazy.
Yeah, something like that. So, I don't want to dissuade people one way or another, or persuade them one way or another to bet on one team or the other, because if they don't win, they'll come and find me. But what I do want to, but
not,
you know what?
Not at the Patch or not at the Ryderville.
No,
not at Ryderville.
No, but you know what? There's so many cool keys. The fact that it is Arbuckle is going to make a difference, but the Argos can win in a lot of different ways. They have the best returner in the league, in Janarian Grant. Their front seven collectively is better than any front seven in the league, I think, on defense. And they have, Mackay Polk and DeMonte Coxey that are two of the hottest receivers in the league. So, I think they can make this a game. But again, lots of keys. I'm going to be looking at Toronto, yes. Nick Arbuckle can tell a pretty cool story. about being ready when you're number two. Be ready, because your time, you might be called. And of course, you guys know in 07, Ryan Didwin went through the same thing. His first start in the CFL was the Grey Cup in 07.
Grey Cup.
Having Glen Suitor. Yeah.
So, Suits, one of the things that we a lot of us so far on the show and anybody we've talked to, on Saturday, the Saskatchewan Roughriders got beat by a Winnipeg Blue Bomber team that was just flat out better in all three phases. It looked like the Bombers had an answer no matter what the Riders did in any phase of the game. And the credit goes to the Bombers and the coaching staff, because although the score was 38-22, the game never seemed that close, even when it was like 14-6. To you, did it always feel like the Bombers were in control of that game, especially once they went up 14-0?
Yes, absolutely. I make the comparison to the 2013 Rider run, when I watched Darian Durant and that team in the Grey Cup. That game was never in doubt. The Riders, when they came out of the tunnel, were ready at a different level than Hamilton was that day. And, that's not a slight at the Ticats or a pro athlete that isn't quite, as prepared as the opponent. I don't care what team you put over there. You could have put Warren Moon's Eskimos on the other side, and the Riders were winning that game in 2013. I felt very similar in this playoff game. A real successful season for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, for a first-year head coach to lead the team to a home playoff game and win it and get to the final is a great stepping stone, a great sort of, cornerstone of the foundation you're trying to build. But yeah, that's exactly what I thought about midway through the second quarter. I thought, this is a Hall of Fame quarterback who's been the best quarterback in the league in Zach Collaros, the best quarterback since he went to Winnipeg in 2019. He's been the best quarterback in the league throughout that stretch. And he was on. He was on. It didn't matter what they did. And then when there was a bust in coverage, he found it. And in the second half, they went to what we all thought they were going to do to start the game, which was go to Brady Oliveira and have him pound it up. So, I was with you. I thought, there's going to have to be something unusual happen, a block kick, an interception for a touchdown from the Riders. Something like that was going to have to happen for that game to turn. And the Bombers just weren't having any of it. They were going to win on that day.
Was it scheme and coaching more so than, again, there's execution, Glenn, but we talked about it earlier in the show. Like, that 2 weeks seemed to really help the Bombers in coming up with some sort of scheme and game plan that caught the Riders off guard, and then they executed it. Like, I saw, Collaros, he ate that zone up when he did throw the ball. Yeah. It just seemed like they knew exactly what we were throwing at him.
Well, I think there's something to be said about that extra week for sure. I'm always reluctant to say that a team got out-coached. I think you can have a good game plan, and as you go through it, as the game starts to progress, there is an element of coaching that you need to make the adjustments necessary. And I think the Riders were trying to do that. I mean, for the first couple of quarters, they tried to get the ball to Sam Emelis. And, you saw Evan Holm, their halfback, just win the battles. When the ball was about to arrive, he just cut underneath those routes and made the plays on the ball. So, I think they went in with a game plan. They made some adjustments that didn't work. I remember talking to Trevor Harris guys before the game started, and in our Zooms during the week, and I asked him, what makes Winnipeg as good as they've been in the last 19 years? He said, it's not that they have better schemes or trickier plays or anything like that. It's that they don't, if you get them on a play, they don't make that mistake again. And they make the adjustments really quickly. So now you're facing something different and you have to adjust to that. And it's this massive chess game going on, which is one of the things we love about football. But I wouldn't say, completely out coached, but I would say that extra week, in the last 4 years, if you wanted to beat the Bombers, you had to host the final. You had to host the final, and don't discredit the crowd and how that influenced Trevor Harris in trying to get plays run on offensively.
That's
I
thing.
heard you and Dustin had mentioned that you'd never heard it so loud in there. Like Labor Day or Banjo Bowl being one thing, but this was even a notch up from Banjo Bowl as far as like crowd losing it.
Yeah, it's a notch up, and it's just a unsettling feeling. It's hard to start playing with tremendous confidence. I mean, they battled. I thought Schaefer Baker battled. There was players that played well in the game, but for the Riders. But the crowd was huge. The extra week is important. A good coaching staff will do a little self-scouting in that week. The difference in Montreal and their bye was that they went a month and a bit without a game that mattered in the standings. And that can make you, I think, that can be an issue. They looked a little off. I mean, Cody was missing some throws in the East final that he made all season and that he made last year. So I think it was a different scenario for them with a month and a half of games that were sort of tough to get ready for and playing different players and things like that. And then they had the week off, and then they play the Argos, who are kind of on a roll. So, we've had this discussion many times about how important the final is, but give me a chance at a final and self-scouting for a week. Yeah, I'm in.
All right. Well, you have a good few days here doing housework, and then we'll catch up with you on
I would
Thursday.
love to know how many loads of laundry Suits is doing. Yeah, and he doesn't
exactly.
he doesn't drink red wine, and he doesn't drink beer. In case you see him at Riderville.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Not this week. Not this
There
week.
we go.
I'm gonna go do one set of laundry just to do it now. I have to now.
Talk to you Thursday.
Thanks, guys.